Hey, everybody. This week on the Witching Hour, we have teacher, author, and friend Jack Grayle. What are we going to talk about this week, Jack?
We are going to talk about the goddess Hecate, the goddess of ghosts, witchcraft, and magic. And I can't wait.
Hey, everybody. This is Patti. Welcome to the Witching Hour. Yes, the hour of the day when the veil is thin and magic happens. We have some beautiful magic for you, really magical magic for you to do. He's a friend of mine. He is a teacher. He is an author. He teaches Hecate, and book that he sent me recently is the best book I have ever seen in my life. Let me introduce you to my friend Jack Grayle. Thank you so much, Jack, for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I was so pleased to be asked. Thank you, Patty.
Yes. Yes. So, you are definitely a devotee of Hecate, the goddess Hecate,
I am.
and you have written and you teach Hecate, and so we'll get into all of that too. But I've never seen a book like this. I've never held a book like this. It is more than a book. It really is like a devotional or a
Yeah.
grimoire. Or,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit of where did this come from? How did this come about? Again, so different.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for asking. And I'm glad you like it. This is, as you said, I'm a devotee of the goddess Hecate. And if anyone, I don't know if anyone doesn't know who she is, in ancient times, she was a goddess. She was either pictured holding torches or a key. And the idea was she would light your way if you're in darkness, or she could unlock the door to your problems or your travels if you're having trouble getting from where you were to where you wanted to be, right? So she was a great goddess because she was there to help you get to where you needed to go safely, brightening your path and protecting you. Okay. So it's great. It could be a literal path, like I'm going to LA and I want to be sure I'm protected. Or it could be sort of your spiritual path. Like I'm a certain age. I don't know what comes next. I'm confused by my choices. And she could help with that too. So I found her to be a wonderful goddess. And so I wanted to celebrate her and find a way to create a path for people to get to know her better in a way that was, like contemporary, but also sort of referenced the ways that she was celebrated back in the day, and so I wrote that book. This is a yellow version of it, which I like a lot, but it's called the Hecatean, and it's a collection of hymns, prayers, spells, rituals, rites, meditations, things like that, that are meant to draw the person who reads it deeper and deeper and deeper into a relationship with her and provide opportunities to feel her presence, and be touched by her and even communicate with that power in ways that are empowering and reassuring and strengthening, so that was the idea of the book, and, whether I succeeded or not, that was the goal that I put together. But it I've been really proud of it, and I got some friends of mine to do the art. It's just beautiful. They did a great job, so
And
I'm very proud of it.
the sigil work, the symbols and everything. Again, it is an art book. It is the one you put on your coffee table, but don't want people to touch, but then you want them to read it. The symbols and the sigils. Is literally the happiest book I've ever had.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, Patty, too. If you have a burglar come in your house, you can give them a good whack, won't have it. They won't have a
She's on
chance.
notice, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah,
So this has literally a path that you follow, a daily thing that you do to get to a point.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
It's
which I haven't done yet. I've been kind of just going through it because I've been traveling. Now I'm not traveling for a bit, so I'm actually gonna follow the whole thing with the moon cycle.
Oh, good, good, good. Yeah, and it has right, because at the beginning, it suggests the new moon, the dark moon, was sort of her moon phase, and
Mhm.
so it suggests in the 8 days leading up to the new moon, 8 simple little rituals you can do at home, with a final one on the night of the new moon, and those 9 rituals are meant to sort of be an act to show the goddess, like, "I'm invested in you, I want to meet you, I want to experience what it's like to be in your presence, and I'm, devoted enough to actually set aside the time to do these things." And once you do it, if you commit to it, you make a mark in the book, and that means, like, I've made my mark, literally in on this path, and I'm kind of committed to, exploring this relationship, so to speak. So I'm glad. I hope you do it at some point. I hope you let
Yeah,
me know how it goes.
I've been holding I mean, going through it and getting things ready, but
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, I'm gonna do this when I'm not sitting in some other stage or going, "Where am I? I don't know." Uh, so for people who are new to Hecate and the
Yeah,
goddess and her work, I mean, you explained her beautifully, but our world's crazy now. We know that. We can't get
right,
over the chaos that's
right.
going on. So how could something if this working with this goddess or devotion to her or just
Yeah.
working with her, how do you see her really helping in 2025?
Here's what it's a good question. Like, why look back 2,000 years if our problems are today, right? And a lot of people feel today a very much a sense of kind of disorientation or disempowerment, or the sense that they're entering into a darkness that's confusing or even threatening, and things like that. But what I find really meaningful is in ancient times, the main story of a descent into darkness was when the goddess Persephone, got taken by the lord of the underworld, and her mother searched for her desperately until finally they worked out a deal where she could come back again and be back on Earth most of the time. And that was spring and summer. And then in winter, she'd go back to the underworld. And in that story, Hecate is her guardian and guide that takes her to the underworld safely and travels back with her to make sure she gets safely back from the darkness into the light. And when she's in the darkness, is her companion taking care of her. So part of me was like, how could there be a better spirit power to call upon than one whose main story is accompanying someone on a really scary, dark journey, keeping them company, encouraging them, being their companion, and then helping them go back into the light. Like to me, her whole function there is exactly what most people are looking for when they explore spirituality or when they try to, read self-help books or when they try to get a hold of their life. It's like, I wish I had a friend or a power or a presence that made me feel braver than I am, safer than I am, help me understand my own strengths, help me figure out what are the threats here, what are the obstacles, and how to get around them. And that's exactly within her wheelhouse. It's what she does, it's her function. And anyone who reaches out to her will feel her presence. You don't have to come up with all these complicated things, like to call upon her, to ask her to be present to you, to set aside some time. Those things get results. And and I think that her presence in a person's life almost inevitably results in them feeling safer, more well, and like they can handle it, like they can handle the darkness and they will return to the light. So it just made sense, even though it's an old tale, I think these powers are eternal, and I think she's available to anyone who calls upon her. So, it made sense to me anyway.
I must say I don't yet, I mean, the word yet, I call myself a devotee of her, but she is
Yeah.
the goddess I work with. She is the one I'm wearing her key.
Oh, that's fantastic.
All
Yes.
things when we were doing it in
Yeah.
Massachusetts, Jeff Cullen and everybody, and, um, it's so funny because of just my personal beliefs. I was like, devotee means such a big commitment. I don't know,
Well,
but she is my
right.
girl.
Here's the thing too. It makes perfect sense too, because she was often considered the goddess of witches, and that ties into because in ancient times, witches were often people who worked with the dead, with the spirits people couldn't see. I'm sure this is totally unfamiliar to you. I can't imagine. I'm sorry, it's blowing your mind right now. No, that's what a lot of people don't realize because some people nowadays think a witch is just someone who like crosses their fingers and hopes everything turns out for the best. But in ancient times, you had to have a spirit kind of help you if you wanted to change your fate, if you wanted to make a sick person healthy, or if you wanted to make a broke person, get pints of money, if you wanted to make a person that was scared braver, like if you wanted to do magic, a witch or a sorcerer or something had to have something to empower the working. And often that power came from the dead. And sometimes it was ancestors, if you had an ancestor that was your guide and was your access to the spirit world. And sometimes it was just spirits you came across, in a graveyard, in a cemetery, in your house, at a crossroads, at a place where someone had died, maybe. But literally, a witch was someone who could communicate with that spirit, say, hey, I sense you. I know you're real, though I can't see you. I offer you, if you help me, I will help you. I'll give you a home. I'll talk to you. I'll provide you with the things you need. I'll find out why you're restless and I will give you something, but I need help too. I want to dot, dot, dot. And Hecate was the goddess to sort of facilitate that conversation, which was cool. Because even people who couldn't see spirits would say, hey, Hecate or Hecate, please help me communicate with this spirit. Help them hear me. Help me understand what they want. Help this magic to work. And she would sort of be the intermediary, between the human and the unseen spirit that they're trying to contact. So it, I'm not at all surprised that
Yeah, that is how I work with her, and
yeah,
I have been working with the dead and talking to the dead since I could basically talk.
right.
And that in itself, that ability is what led me into the craft and the occult and witchcrafts.
Yeah.
It's she came along with it. So it's just my own personal things going to, what devotee means to me. So, but again, that's why I'm going to do your 9-day thing.
I'm so glad you do.
Yeah.
You know what's funny, Patty? I find so many people, when it comes to the dead, especially here in America, a lot of people are so freaked out by them, that they think anyone who would speak to them or who would offer them something or give them a role to play is like so creepy and scary that it's all Halloween stuff, that necromancy is for evil people, like all this stuff. Something you don't encounter in other cultures where they're more in touch with their dead, where they still talk to their dead grandmother, where they still will give flowers to their dead parents, where they will still go out on Memorial Day or Day of the Dead and have a picnic in a cemetery, and it's not considered creepy. And so this idea of, as you do, of treating them like people,
Yeah.
to say they're still people. They're just people that aren't physically among us, but that's no reason to treat them differently than we would in real life, which is to say with respect, and courtesy and to try to find out, what do you need? How can I help you? And how can we have a reciprocal relationship? We're both getting something out of it.
Look, just because you don't have a meat suit. What? And
Right.
it is true. It is our modern Western. We've
Yeah.
taken all the magic. We've taken we are yeah, everything is such left brain focus that
Right.
we even regular religion, they've taken the mysticism, the magic out of
Right.
other their Eastern cultures, and so many other cultures still hold on to it, but you nailed
You're
it.
It's so true, and you can see the remnants of it, like Catholicism's cult of the saints. People don't understand, but, like, that is actually very close to what a witch would do. You get a relic, there's a piece of the saint's hair or clothing or even just an image, and you're praying for a dead spirit, probably one that died violently, to help you out by doing something in the unseen world that you can't do yourself, you know? And so it's under an Orthodox religion's, structure, but it is very much ghost work and it is very much spirit work. And it is very much, this idea of having people will talk about, oh, I have a relationship with St. Christopher, or oh, St. Anthony always comes through for me, or oh, St. Joseph, blah, blah, blah. That type of personal relationship with an unseen power can be really comforting to the people who need help and the people around them aren't filling the blanks. They need extra help. That's that's
And
really
it's there, and it's there, that's what's
yeah,
great.
yeah,
So, again, going back to the book, it's a very much very like an initiatory path. Is that what you intended when you first started out to do it? Was it good? How did you combine your belief with history and going back so far? Did you use old texts, or is this the creation of Jack, or the dance between? Did that make sense?
yeah,
I know
yeah, yeah, and
it
it
makes.
it wasn't like I started out with, like, a firm, exact idea where it was heading. Because the fact was this, when I started out writing these prayers, these hymns, these rites, it just came out of this sort of upwelling of emotion of wanting to get closer to her myself, you know? Like, I feel like I'm drawn to this power. It occupies my imagination. I'm fascinated by her. I don't have I don't see spirits, I have trouble sometimes discerning the unseen world, but I thought, maybe I can approach her through art. Maybe I know I can write a poem. I know I can create a ritual. I know I can organize a rite. I know I can do this. So I'll do what I can and I'll offer it to her and I'll ask her, please inspire me, please give me ideas that help me draw closer to you. And so, I would do research or reading. How did they honor her back then? How did magic work? What was the principles it worked on? And then I would just sort of let it flow out. I don't know if you feel this, but like it's sometimes when you feel like you're tapped into a power, you get like I mean, it can be exhausting, but also you can be full of ideas and inspiration. You get excited. There's an if there's energy that comes from it that can express itself through creativity, and that I felt that, and I thought, well, I think this is real because my attempts to reach her are resulting in these ideas, and the ideas became the writings in this book, which are attempts to honor her and her aspect of witch goddess or goddess of the moon or goddess of the dark moon or mistress of the hunt or queen of dogs or someone adjacent to flames and serpents and ghosts and all these wonderful things that are so exciting and yet somehow made me feel both slightly scared and safe at the same time, which is kind of the sweet spot.
It is the sweet spot. That's why we like to be scared and comforted all at the same time.
Right.
Life is complex and she is complex. She's a
Yeah.
very
Right. Right.
being in herself. No black and white. No.
Yeah.
So, how is your personal path? How did you become this? Were you led into the occult and then found her? Or did you find her, which led you deeper into the occult?
Yeah, no, I think the second way, I kind of stumble. It's constantly stumbling and walking it like walking into walls in a haunted house and saying, "Oh, there's a wall there. I'll turn to the right. Oh, there's another wall there." Like it was. I knew I felt kind of disenfranchised from the spirituality I'd grown up with. I still had strong yearnings, but I was sort of drawn to this idea of a liminal feminine goddess who was over magic and transitions in life and those thresholds between who we are and what we could be. And I thought, what would the name of that be if there was a goddess there? And I realized it was, Hecate. And I thought, well, I'll reach out to her, even though I don't personally feel like I myself anyone would take particular notice of me, and I don't feel like I know enough to do it. But sure enough, as soon as I said her name and did very simple devotional acts like lighting a candle or sitting in the quiet, saying her name and saying, I'd like to know you. I'd like to have a relationship with you. I want to find out more about you. Come to me. And just to say the words aloud in a room quietly and mean them, all of a sudden, you know how it is. You can feel a presence in the room, and it doesn't take a bunch of magic circles or symbols or months of prep. That opening yourself up to it, and you realize it's a power that wants to be present to you, that's eager to manifest to you in the ways you can apprehend it, but you have to open the door and it will do the rest. And that was a huge reassurance to me and a surprise too, because I thought, you get that feeling, where the air feels thick and everything sort of feels, electric in the room. And you think there's something in here. I can't see it and I can't measure it, but I'm no longer alone. And so I'm going to speak to it. And once you do, you feel those goosebumps and the hair prickle on the back of your neck. And you think, this is real. This is not my imagination. And then if you've noticed this, like as soon as you reach out, you start to see all kinds of synchronicity in your life that you weren't aware of before, and sometimes it's in dreams, but sometimes all of a sudden you see dogs everywhere. All of a sudden there's moons and serpents on the advertising you look at, or on the radio or on the TV, there's something that you asked her about that all of a sudden answers the question, or something you really hoped for. It happens 5 minutes after you asked for it. And you found out it happened the day before. And you're like, you almost feel like the arrow of time is bending as you start to, and you think, okay, well, this is can't all be coincidence, like something is happening here. And if you keep it up, I find like if you keep saying, thank you, I feel like you're listening to me. I want to listen to you. How can I celebrate you more? What do you want? Like, what can I bring to the table? All of a sudden, you start feeling like it's two-way conversation. And like any relationship, it starts to develop and it becomes something you can rely on and be proud of.
Yeah. Oh, and that synchronicity is like not coincidence
Yeah.
is crazy how that happens because again, in the paranormal world besides witchcraft and spirituality and occult world. So I have this one, it's like a talking ghost bot, like
Yeah. Oh,
they
yes. Yes.
equip and my best friend, Patti Stanger, she's the millionaire matchmaker. She
Yeah.
is the devotee of Hecate,
Oh, yeah.
Hecate. Talk about that in a second. But I have this little thing and it talks for spirit. And one day we were like, well, let's talk to Hecate with it. It starts barking. It is
Did it really? Did it really?
just dogs. Okay, we got it. And it was great versus,
Oh
look
my,
at the table. So it's like, yeah, she's kind of brilliant that way.
it it is. Yeah, yeah. It says, I'll tell you what else it does too. It makes you look at your mundane existence differently because all of a sudden, even when you don't have a talk box, or even when you aren't doing, divinatory, type of magic, you start seeing and hearing things in your normal life that you realize they're speaking to me through the people I meet and through the normal things I see and through my, everything from my phone to my TV to my dreams to my walking down the street. And all of a sudden you start to pay more attention to your own life because the signs are everywhere, like, and that's really, I find it's cool. you know?
Yeah. It is amazing, and then it's just in your face, and it's beautiful, and then,
Yeah.
"Okay, we're gonna left here, I'm going right here, this is good."
I can't believe it started barking.
No, it's like it is no I've had that, like, 6, 7, 8 years and never done
That's
mm,
fant Oh my god, that's fantastic.
yeah, and how it picks it up out of the ethers was pretty awesome,
Wow.
uh, so tell us a little bit about how you teach this. You have tell us about the
Yeah,
Blackthorn School and what you do and where
yeah,
we
yeah. Well, I do, right. So the book thing, I wrote that book, and if people are interested, the book's available on a website called miskatonicbooks.com. But then I teach classes too on at a great organization called the Blackthorn School, and Blackthorn with an E at the end, school.com. And they have all kinds of courses, but I teach on there, and I teach a class to like how to encounter Hecate. And we look at the ancient sources, you know what I mean? Like, what was her original myth like? How did people call upon her? What were the ways in which they would, what were some of the magic spells that invoked her back in the day? So it's a nice kind of background in the ancient tradition. And then I have two other classes where we look at the ancient magic in Egypt, in Roman Egypt. And the reason why I do that is because one of the surprises I discovered when I looked up the Hecatean spells, they all came from Roman Egypt, which was a surprise because I thought they'd come from Greece because she's a Greek goddess. But the best magic spells we have, calling Hecate, come from Roman Egypt, which is cool because Roman Egypt and actually like a place, it like very much like our own, believe it or not, because it was back when these spells came from it was a mix of indigenous African people and Jews and Christians and Persians and people, from all different cultures that was, it was this big mixed bag of people. And they had a religion that was mixture of African Egyptian religion mixed with Greek and Roman gods, mixed with Christian and Jewish angels and gods and things like that. So it was a multicultural, country back then that these spells reflect that. And I think and they were also back then they're dealing with plague, they're dealing with immigration, they're dealing with high taxes, crime, volatile political circumstances,
just like
identity challenges. It's like the same stuff. They talk about history repeats, you know what I mean? Like when you look at it, you're like, oh my God, this place was 2000 years ago, but it like syncs up to ours. So so I have other classes, they're called PGM because that's the name of the magic spells. But it looks at the magic spells that call upon Hecate and other gods and powers from the time in the ancient magic in Roman Egypt. So I teach classes like that for people that want to expand beyond Hecate and look at, some spells might call the Michael the archangel, and other ones might do Apollo, and other ones might call upon the goddess Isis. It's all mixed together, which I find cool. I love that stuff.
I do too. I like them like smorgasbord.
Yeah.
So, why can't we make it a Hecate, 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 Hecate? What that
Like,
drives me crazy, actually.
oh yeah, I know, right? Like what to call her, what to go. And I think what it amounts to just is because she was in so many different cultures, they each kind of called her. The pronunciation changed for culture they went to. Like we use the name Jesus, but they didn't call him that back in Israel. His name would have been Yeshua or someone like that. Like there's multiple versions of the name. The ancient Greeks would have called her Hecate. And then the academics nowadays call her Hecate, when she appears in like the plays of Shakespeare or something. And a lot of neo pagans and Wiccans call her Hecate. And that's just part of the modern Greeks call it Hecate. So there's multiple different ways. And the name anyway is just a nickname. It's not even like a real name. Hecate means the far worker, the one who can do things from far away, which is a great name. because it means like even if she feels far away or distant or so long ago, she can still do things today. She's the far worker. And the image is kind of like someone so far away with a bow and arrow that can still hit the bullseye, even though they're pretty much out of sight. So it's a great nickname, and it kind of sums up her, I think, in a good way because she still is able to affect things from a long way off, and you can feel it.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So with the book, again, everybody, I highly recommend this. Again, it's gonna be
Oh,
I have a big library, I have a big occult library, and again, this is not like anything I have, so it's
mm,
beautiful. So,
thank you.
yeah, with some of the rituals and practices in the book, is this something people can adapt to for their personal practice or
Yeah.
even coven work or even coven work?
Yeah, yeah, no, and I'm glad you said that. There's a lot of people, as you know, Patty, nowadays be like, "It's my way or the highway, like, you gotta do this my way or it won't work at all," it's like, if you don't do everything perfectly, well, none of it works then and blah, blah, blah. Like, I find that type of binary thinking completely unrealistic. Nothing else works that way, you know what I mean? Like, nothing. Why would magic work that way? Things are on a spectrum. It's like, there's maybe things that are more effective and less, but you can still get the job done based on using what you have available to you, where you're at in your time, following your own intuition and your own experience. So when people like buy this book, they'll be like, "Oh, I have my own cer- meditation I do before magic. Can I still do it?" Oh, yeah, like do what works for you. Or some people are like, "Oh, well, I call quarters before my magic. You don't say anything about." I'm like, "Well, do it. You do you. This is meant to supplement what you do. It's meant to inspire you. Even if you just want to take pieces of it and incorporate it into what you're doing, that's fine. It's not meant to make anyone quit or change anything they're doing. It's meant, hopefully, to give people ideas, inspire them, and if you wanna steal from it or hack it or, use it as a collage, cut it up and rearrange it, like, do it, and that's one of the fun things. When I started looking at the ancient magic spells, they do that all the time, like, they're shameless. They'll take each other's spells and say, "Well, I'll put the first part last, I'll put the last part in the middle, I'll cut the last part, I don't like it, and I'll add a few lines from my favorite ghost story, and I'll put in a thing at the end that I stole from this other tradition." Like, they're shameless, and I think that's how we should be with our magic too. We should be shameless. Just take what's good. I don't care if it came from the TV show Charmed. I don't care if it came from an ancient grimoire. I don't care if you dreamt it up last night. Like, take what's good, put it all in there like a stew, like,
Right,
use the
I
best.
agree wholeheartedly. That's part of it's beautiful. So before we go, do any words of wisdom again from your practice and your devotion, any words of wisdom for my other than get this book, you guys, check
No,
out his school, check out this take classes because again, Patty and I have been talking about this for a while now, so you might see little faces in your Zoom room. Um, any words of wisdom you have for anybody?
I I would say this, Patty. I think the main rule that people need to follow and don't is to trust themselves. To trust themselves. If a woman came up to me a while ago and said, "I really want to contact Hecate, but she's so far away. I never met her." This person was like a fish looking for water. The
Mm,
goddess is all around us. She's within and without us. If she's a goddess of liminality, we're liminal creatures. We pass through the threshold every day, a physical threshold, a bodily threshold, imaginary, age, profession, romance, we're passing through that liminality. And if she is, as I think she is, like the gatekeeper from where we are to what we will be, she's our closest companion. So what we're really trying to do with our magic is not call someone who's really far away to come close, but is to open our own eyes to someone that's already there and invite that presence in and then trust ourselves that when we get goosebumps that it means something. It's not just a draft. And when we have a weird dream, it's not just random neurons firing off. It means something. Or if we, say a prayer to her, then we hear dogs barking from the neighbors, like it's not random. It means something. And if the thing we asked for happens 2 weeks later, but in a different way than we expected, it's not arbitrary. It means something. It's working. Your magic will work. Like, you just have to believe in it, and you have to learn to listen to what's inside, because most people have a very quiet voice that tells them what they believe and what they need. But a lot of us have gotten used to stifling that voice. We're like, well, I want someone else to tell me how to do it. I want someone else to tell me if I'm a success or not. You tell me how to do this, because they don't believe what we have inside matches other people that might have more credentials or better backgrounds or more whatever. But I would just say, trust yourself and don't be afraid to reach out to something you can't see. And when you do, listen to what's inside of you and look and see what happens and believe that your magic is real because it is, and believe that you'll get results because you will, and believe that she's beside you and will stay behind you because she is. It's what she does. And you deserve it. And that voice inside of you will never lead you astray if you listen to it.
Words of wisdom indeed. Correct. Thank you. All right. Before we go, tell people where they can find you if they want to know
Oh,
about you, your book, your classes,
oh,
your
sure, sure.
website, social media.
Yeah, sure. Well, my name's Jack Grayle, Grayle. And if people want, I have a website, jackgrayle.com. My book is available on miskatonicbooks.com, miskatonic books.com. And the classes I teach are at the Blackthorn School, which is, Blackthorne school.com. And so if you're interested, shoot an email or message me on social media or look up those things. I'd be glad to see you if you're interested in more.
You guys are going to love them like I do. And thank
Thank you.
you for bringing your beautiful magic to the
Oh,
witch
thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on the show. You're such an inspiration.
anytime.